Well, hello again and welcome to my sewing room. I'm Nicola and I live in Canada and I like to make a lot of things. I knit, crochet, sew and sometimes other things. At the moment sewing seems to be taking up a lot of my time. I'm just finishing up working in a fabric store. I've only got 2 shifts left to work, Friday and Saturday, and then I'm done there. I am taking a break from work, not quite to retirement time yet, but my husband's only got a couple of years to go, and so I will probably spend a few weeks at least spending some time just making stuff, and hopefully also getting some exercise like doing yoga and stuff, because otherwise, you know, I might just eat and sew and that probably wouldn't be healthy, much as I'd love it. So let's see what's new. Right now I've got the fan going. It's boiling hot here. I'm in British Columbia and it's super hot. It's been up to almost 40 degrees and the air is really smoky. I'm looking out my sewing room window here in case you wonder why I'm looking over that way. The air is so thick with smoke right now. We have a major fire just across the highway from us that is causing a lot of people to be on evacuation alert right now. Not threatening our neighborhood immediately, thank goodness. And there's another one at a provincial park a fair way south of us, and so the sky has been really full of smoke. The view has gone. Can't see the lake from my house anymore. It starts to feel a little bit weird in your chest after a while because you're breathing in all that particulate, and obviously there's concern for people who are worried about losing their homes, and we're hoping that all of the efforts right now that are being put into fighting the fire on this side of it are going to hold it back, because there's helicopters and water bombers and all that out working on that today. I was going to go to the beach today. I was really looking forward to some beach time once I finished work. I did have a lovely beach day on Monday, and I parked my car under a tree, put down my beach quilt and all my stuff, and I was literally about 5 steps from the water, and so I had a lovely time spending a few hours knitting, playing on my phone of course, doing a puzzle book and sunbathing. For part of the time I didn't stay out in the sun all the time, I didn't want to burn. It was lovely. I think I went in the lake about 6 times. Every time I got a bit hot I went in the water to cool off. That was awesome. Last week my husband and I went to see a musical, Grease the musical. I can't believe that Grease the movie came out in 1978. I would have been 16. That probably explains why the music is so stuck in my head, and it just brings back so many memories. And it was a lot of fun. It was great listening to all those songs again, and honestly sometimes I wish that my kids had got into being on the stage, singing, dancing, because it just looks like so much fun. What a way to spend your time. So what else is new? So the update on work, which I have mentioned before, I am quitting my job. They have found a new manager and an assistant manager at work. They're still a little short staffed. They're still a little bit swamped with fabric coming in the door. Fall is such a busy time for new fabrics coming in the door. And even though I gave a month's notice and then extended it for another 2 weeks, I'm still feeling bad about leaving, and I know I shouldn't, because it's time for me to move on to something new, but I can't help feeling bad for the people who are going to have to deal with all that. But then it's their choice now. They can handle that going forward, and I know they'll make a good job of it. It'll be okay. I have to keep telling myself they'll be okay. Nobody's indispensable, right? My husband always says, if you had an accident tomorrow and couldn't go back to work, would they manage? Yes, they would. Nobody's indispensable. So I need to just tell myself that every time I start worrying about them. So I want to tell you a little bit about a few new acquisitions I've got. Two of them are kind of fun. I did an order from AliExpress, which is the first one I've done since before COVID, and I bought reading glasses. What do you think of these? Aren't they sexy? I've got two colorways, and I can't remember how much they were, a couple of dollars probably, and they're 2.5 times magnification. So for my crappy eyes with floaters and possibly a cataract growing in this one, and of course middle-aged short-sightedness, and the fact that my prescription is like -8, -9, I really need these, because as you probably know, if you're in this sort of 40, 50, 60 age range, letters get smaller, labels get smaller, and they're harder and harder to read. So I'm really happy about my reading glasses. There was one other thing I can show you that I got from AliExpress, which was fun. I bought some labels, they're tags really, little tags that came in 2 packages, and one of them has an itty bitty handmade logo and sewing machine on, and the other one has itty bitty yarn ball that says handmade on it. They are so cute. I'm going to have to start sewing them on to things I make, just for fun. And of course I got teal, which is my favourite colour, so why not? I think there's 50 in a pack. So that should last me a while. I also caved to a little bit more quilt cotton to add to the stash this week. How cute is this one? Don't usually go for pink fabric, but this one is really lovely. It's French seam. There we go. Eiffel Tower, French coffee shop, ooh la la, and a girl on a bike with a beret. How French is that? So I don't know what I'm going to make with it yet, but you know, it'll live in the stash for a little while until I figure that out. And the other fabrics I bought remind me of Hawaii. And of course you've probably heard the news about Hawaii, especially Maui. It's so sad that Lahaina got pretty much totally destroyed. We've been to Maui twice in the last 6 years maybe, and the first time we were there we stayed in Kihei and we went to visit Lahaina, and the second time we stayed at Ka'anapali Shores, I think it's called, and that's just north of Lahaina. So both times we were there we really enjoyed walking along the Lahaina waterfront, spending time under the banyan tree, and just generally soaking up all that lovely tropical warmth. And the thought that it's all gone now, it's really sad. And anytime I see anything with turtles on, it always makes me think of Hawaii. So I found this fabric at work. It's got turtles and seahorses on, which are 2 of my favourite things. And then I got 2 of the coordinates. One which just looks like dappled water, and one which has seaweed and shells on it. Again, going in the stash. Don't know what I'm going to make with them yet, but the potential is there. I have one more big acquisition, and it's living underneath this sweater, but we'll talk about that later. So let's start with the yarn. The yarn. Okay, the crochet scarf is finished. This is made with Louisa Giardino in the colour Lily Del Valet, and it was a souvenir yarn from Yarndale. Back in 2019, I convinced my husband we had to go to Yarndale. We had a fantastic holiday, including a lot of time in Yorkshire. Yes, it bucketed with rain a couple of days at least, but kind of expect that in Northern England, right? So this is made with about 107 grams of the Louisa Harding yarn. It's a cotton blend. It's got gorgeous colours in it. Lime, rust, turquoise. And then what I did with the ends is I added a fringe. So here's the fringe. It's a twisted cord fringe. And I did a quick Google and I found a tutorial, I think it was by someone called Nastasia. It was a video anyway. There's a few. If you Google twisted cord fringe, there's a lot. And all you do is, from the stitch you're starting in, you pull out a really long loop. She suggested using a tissue box as a guide for the length, so that's what I did. I pulled the loop out to the size of the length of the tissue box, twisted it 35 times, doubled it, slip stitched back into the base of the cord, then slip stitched over to the next stitch, did the same. And oh my goodness, it looks lovely, but it's so boring. It is boring. Anyway, also, having broken my wrist in the past, snowboarding, way back in 2018, there's a plate in here, there's a titanium plate in here, and certain things aggravate my wrist somewhat. And I could tell that if I had done any more than this, and it was going to get painful. So I was really glad when it was over. I think I did it over the course of a few days because I just couldn't do it all in one sitting. It was just too much. So this is about 8 feet long. I'm pleased with it. It's pretty. I just made it because I wanted to make it. It's not for anyone in particular. All right, the knitting has come along as well. Let's see if I can find a good picture of this. This knitting project is called the Nightshade shawl. My paper's blowing around a bit. I have a fan going on the side here because it's, even though I'm in the basement here, it's still too warm. So here's a picture of the shawl. The designer made hers in 3 fairly neutral shades, and hers is going to be far more large than mine because I'm taking out some of the repeats because I didn't know whether I'd have enough yarn for full repeats. So I'm being careful. Playing yarn chicken a bit here. So this yarn is Jody Long Coastline. It's a blend of cotton and linen and a couple of other things, and I'm not going to put the glasses on to squint at the label right now. I finished the blue section. It's a little scrunched on a too short cable at the moment. So the blue section is done. It's garter stitch, it's nice easy knitting. There's just some make ones at the beginning of the rows and a little bit of wrapping and turning once you get to the yellow. And so that lace section there, there was supposed to be 3 repeats and I did 2 because I'm thinking ahead. When I do the yellow and the red, I'll probably only do 2 repeats of that lacy bit in the yellow and the red, and I wanted it to be consistent. Hoping it's going to work out. Also hoping that I'm doing this yellow part correctly, because when it gets to the short rows, you're told to knit 2 stitches past the last wrap stitch. Now I'm hoping that my interpretation of that is right, because I'm interpreting that to mean you knit the wrapped stitch 2 more and then you wrap the next stitch and turn. So I'm really hoping that's correct, because right now it's looking pretty small, that section. So I'm really hoping I'm doing it correctly. And after I've finished with that colour, I have this one. And I love that the colours of this yarn are named after beachy things, because I actually did knit on this at the beach the other day. And that was the idea, that this was my August project, beach themed. And I'm hoping that the fires will dampen down and the smoke will clear and I can enjoy lots more beach time. Also, I will have plenty of opportunity to work on this next week, because my husband and I are going away for a couple of nights to a cabin that we have rented a lot of times before. Usually we go there in the winter for our wedding anniversary, and it has a hot tub and it's a really private cabin, and it has everything you need. It's not really rustic, but there's a wood stove and a proper kitchen, so we can cook for ourselves, because we always cook for ourselves. And going there in the summer will be a little bit of a nice change. But it's my birthday on one of the days, so it'll be a nice birthday treat. I'm going to make sure that when we pack the food for the retreat, I take some birthday cake. Okay, let's move on to the sewing. There was one kind of failure, which I'll start with, and then we'll move on to the more successful stuff after that. This pattern, which you'll have seen a few times if you've been watching my previous vlogs, I've made a few things out of this, and this time I wanted to make a turquoise t-shirt, and it's a lovely rayon spandex knit. And when I got the pattern pieces out, I realized that after I made the tanks, I then made a couple of t-shirts, and I just added the sleeves onto the t-shirt. And for some reason I had a little bit of an aha moment there and realized I was not using the t-shirt bodice pieces, but I was using the tank bodice pieces to add the sleeve to, and they were different. I don't know why I decided to do it differently this time, because it worked perfectly before. But no, I had to go and use the t-shirt bodice with the t-shirt sleeves, and it came out huge. So this is the fabric. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's slinky and drapey and lovely. Look at the size of it. It's massive. You can't even see it because it's so huge. Right, there. So, yeah, far too big. It's crazy. And so after I realized how much bigger it came out, I held the two pattern pieces on top of each other, and I thought, oh, why is the t-shirt so much bigger? I used the large in the tank top, large in the t-shirt, and yeah, it's like 4 inches wider. So I have a choice to make here. Either I could cut it up and re-sew it smaller, or what I did consider is trying to do something creative with it. I considered maybe ruching the sleeves up to make it a little bit more narrow here, and then maybe doing a sort of tuck in here or something in the body to bring the body in again. I'll put it on my dress form and see what I think, but I really don't think I'm going to wear it the way it's looking right now, so I have to do something with it. So that was a bit of a fail, which is a shame. That's my favourite colour. And I really want that t-shirt to wear. Not huge. Oh well. What else have I been making? There's a needle book. The last needle book I made, I don't think I showed it on the vlog. I may have done a little bit of film of it. Oh, I think I might have done quite a bit of film of it actually last time, but I didn't have it in hand to show you actually at the time. So I made another one. I used the same fabric. This one's for me. I used the same fabric as before. And it's a sewing themed upholstery fabric. So what I ended up doing was letting the design of the fabric dictate the size of it. Cut that piece out. I used this fabric here for the inside because it sort of coordinated and had a bit of a vintagey look to it. It has a pocket that runs all the way across the inside. Got some thread in there and a little pair of embroidery scissors in here. And then I put a rectangle of felt in the center. And I've got some pins and needles attached in there. And also I thought I would snap this little strip of felt here so that if I wanted to, I could add my row counter ring that I have to it, or one of those rings which you can put on your finger as a yarn guide, which I don't think I've ever used, but if I wanted to, I could put it in here. So it's quite big, but I just made it because I wanted it. I wanted a needle book. That was cute. And the ribbons just wrap around and then wrap around the button. So that was one of my FOs for this week. Another really basic finished object, and it's so simple I'm almost embarrassed to show it, but it's pretty fabric. So this is a gorgeous fabric. It's a decor fabric from work called Paint Pot Decor. And it used to be about 50 something dollars a meter when it was new. It's $6 now. It's on clearance. So I just made a double thick rectangle. I sewed the two right sides together and then flipped it out the right side and top stitched it. And this is destined for my mum's room at the care home. So it will be winging its way across the Atlantic to her very soon, because my sister suggested that she needed an antimacassar. Antimacassar sounds like a very old-fashioned thing, and it kind of is, because it was something that housewives used to put on their armchairs or couches to stop the hair product from their husband's head wrecking their furniture, right? You probably already know that. And when my mum gets her hair dyed and she sits in her recliner all the time, it tends to stain the seat behind her. And my sister managed to wash the cover of the cushion a little bit, but it was still stained. And so she suggested that I make her an antimacassar, which I did. So she can just drape this over the seat behind her head. And if it gets all stained up, my sister can take it home and give it a hot wash, and it's fine because it's just 100% cotton. Told my sister, I have to show it off on the vlog first and then I'll mail it. So that's what I've done. Three more little FOs. Bibs. I went to Google, as we all do, and looked for baby bib patterns. There's a lot of different designs out there, and I had in mind the kind I was looking for, and I wanted the kind that was just curved at the front and then went around the neck and had a snap on the side. I found this one. It was from allfreesewing.com, and I don't even think I'm going to bother linking this because when I printed it out, it wasn't good. It didn't have that little square that you can check to make sure that it's printing out to the correct size. And it also had two pages. This page was big. This half of the design was small. So this line you see here is the original line. And as you can see, it's about 2 inches too small. And I looked at the pieces after I cut them out and I thought, there's no way those are going to match up. So I just ended up redrawing a line outside the too small line and stuck them together and managed to wing it with that. So the first one I made was French Terry. It's lovely soft knit, tie-dye blue. It just has a little snap there. It's the same both sides. And that came out well. It's been a long time since I had a small baby, so I can't remember what size their neck is, but this looks like it would probably fit for quite a while. So after I'd made that, I made 2 more. I dug into this cotton stash and the fleece remnants, and I made this one. And the funny thing is, I remember exactly when I bought this fabric. At the beginning of 2020, things were starting to go haywire with COVID. And at work, we were suddenly being told, oh, the hours are going to get cut. So you're only going to be open shorter hours, and then shorter hours again. And a lot of places were closing down. And I suddenly thought, if the store closes, I'm going to need more fabric. Because what will I do? I will have all this free time and I need more fabric to sew with. So that's what I did. I think this was one of the fabrics that I stashed at the time so that I had stuff to sew with. And then of course we all got mad sewing masks. If I'd have realised that, I'd have stashed elastic as well, but I didn't. So there's that guy, and I put a red snap on that one. And then this one is a cute little skunk print. Skunks and raccoons. And that has a different green fleece on the back. And so I think they came out really well. I think the fleece might add a little bit of waterproofness if there's a lot of drooling going on. Maybe. Anyway, really easy to make. So that's those 3 finished. And then today I made this. And I had in mind to make this for my new manager. She's doing such a stellar job, learning the job and getting things straightened out at the shop. So I thought I'd make her this because she is nuts about Halloween. She's nuts about Halloween all year round. This is her thing. Anything Halloweeny, and that is like 365 day a year decor for her. So I had this fabric in the stash. It's really pretty. Got pumpkins all over it, but stylized ones, pretty ones, classy ones even. And so I put an orange zipper in there, and I also snapped the end of the zipper to the side of the bag with a tab, and the inside is candy corn. So there's that bag. Super cute. And finally, the last sewn item, which I made yesterday, and I was looking through my pile of fleece and chenilles yesterday, which are piled up here over to my left, and I found this massive piece of chenille, and let's see if I can find a small piece of it to show you up close. Okay, so I found this massive piece of chenille in the stash. It was over 1 meter. I think it was a remnant because the lines of the pattern sort of veered off at a weird angle at one point. So this is a little piece of it close up. So it's lovely and soft on one side, and it's got this fleecy, fluffy backing to it. And the pattern is basically buffalo plaid, but in this taupe cream, which is unusual. Normally buffalo plaid tends to be red and black, right? That's the classic Canadian thing, red and black buffalo plaid. So this is what I made. I'll just bring Doris over here. Okay. So when I made this, I'll take it off in a second. I did the collar flipped around so that the inside of the fabric is on the outside. Don't know if that was a good idea. In one way, I wish I had made it so that all of the fluffy stuff was on the outside. You'll see why in a minute. Where's my pattern? This is the pattern. I did make it once before, a long time ago. It's Burda 6476. The last time I made it was with a thin knit which was teal coloured. I did the shorter version, but I did lengthen the body a little bit. And I think I probably shortened the sleeves because the sleeves are super long here. However, this time I'm a lot more experienced with sewing knits. That's not to say it looks any better, because I actually did a really nice job on that first one I made, even though it was my first knit garment at the time, and we're talking over 5 years ago now. I did do a really nice job on that last one, and I did wear it a lot. I have worn it a lot. This one, far from perfect. Mrs. Slapdash strikes again. And the reason why this is slapdash, the seam at the back of the collar not centered. Did try, didn't turn out that way. The pattern on the front not centered. As you can see, there's the collar, and yeah. But to be fair, I was fitting it into a very restrictive amount of fabric. I had to get the two body pieces and the sleeve squeezed in to allow room for me to cut out the collar, and so it was tight. So the front of the body curves up quite high at the front. I tried to minimize how much I hemmed it because I didn't want it too short. And then the back curves down. Pattern on the back, not straight either. I decided that if I had to pick between having the line straight on the front or the back, I'd go with the line straight on the front. Because of the print being skew-iff, and that's why it was a remnant, got it cheap. The lines are not straight, and so I had to fiddle about with it. The sleeves are fine. I think the sleeves are probably the only decent part of it. And I did, because they are so long, I did a really deep hem on this, I think about 2.5 inches. The edges aren't properly finished off, but it's fleece, it won't fray. For a while I'll be getting a little bits of white fluff coming off it, because that backing, once you cut the fabric, it sheds quite a bit. So it's rather funny that it's August and it's super hot out there and I'm making a massively warm sweater, but you know, I just fancied a change. And it's going to be so fun and cozy to wear in the winter. So now we're back to the new acquisitions, because this is my new acquisition. This is Doris. She's an adjustable dress form. Not just a mannequin, an actual adjustable dress form. With the dials and everything. It was funny because the other day at work I was pricing dress forms for sale, because some of the prices had gone up, so we had to reprice them. And I noticed at the bottom of the pile there were 2 or 3 boxes that had clearance stickers on them, and I had no idea they were there. And instead of being $380, they were $150. And I was like, I think I have to get one of those. So I did. And it was actually really good timing, because my mum just gave me some birthday money, and I basically blew the lot on her. Thanks, Mum. So I only had to adjust the waist really, because the bust and hip was pretty much correct for me. And I just had to adjust the waist outward a bit, because, you know, menopausal spread. And it's going to be great actually, because I think I'm going to use her quite a bit now that I'm sewing so much more in the way of garments. And also, if I want to make a skirt and hem it, it's going to be amazing. There's even a little thingy across the bottom there so that you can make sure your hem is level. So I'm really happy about that. It feels like a fitting thing to treat myself to somehow. Well, that's everything I have to talk about this time. I hope you liked what you saw. Please consider hitting that like button and subscribing. And I'd love to get some comments from you. Do tell me the sorts of things you've got on the go. Maybe let me know what you're sewing or knitting or crocheting, what you like to make, and what the weather's like where you are. I can see out the window now that the forecast winds have started, which is really bad news for the wildfires. And also we were told we might get dry lightning, so that also is not good. So I am hoping that it's all going to pass over as quickly as possible and that the firefighters will get a handle on those fires for us. Very grateful for them. So I'll say goodbye for now and see you next time. Thanks.